This is the Playbook Sports Horse Report on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Week 2 for the 2021 season. And if week 2 is going to have to live up to week 1's perfect 2-0 by John Hardoon, then we've got our work cut out for us. So, John, congratulations. I'm picking 2 winners last week, and they weren't favorite winners either. You had some good payouts, including the Holy Bull.
Yeah, and the Florida race, the grass race, I think we had an $11 horse and 7 and change in the Holy Bull. So all good, and let's see if we can keep it going.
Mark, how impressed were you by John's perfect 2-0 start?
Well, I was very impressed. How can you not be? And like you say, how can you live up to 2-0? We're not going to do that. Maybe we will on this show, but obviously for the rest
You've
of
got
the
nowhere
season,
else to go but down now, John.
That's a problem. Maybe we should quit while we're ahead.
By the way, since that was a Derby prep race, the Holy Bull, what do you think about the horse that won then? Anything? Is that one to put, we're going to put that away for later use potentially, John?
Yeah, well, the horse ran real well. He ran another 7. The figures came out, and he ran exactly the same figure that he ran going into the race. So that's
That's
good.
Greatest honor.
Right, and he's got, he's got a bright future ahead of him. He has a trainer that knows how to win the Derby. The same trainer trained a horse named Orb, and a lot of people are comparing this horse to Orb.
Wow, really? Okay.
Hey, John, let me ask you this. Had that horse run a bigger figure, okay, if either run a 4 or a 5, would he have then moved into bounce range material for you? Or do you like to have him run the same number?
It depends when they would bring him back. If they brought him back on a short, he would definitely need more time than he's going to need now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. He's actually ready to run a new top in his next race, which is strong. He may be developing too quick because the idea is to get him to run their best race on the first Saturday in May. So, it's a matter of it takes really a super trainer to get a horse to win the Derby and obviously to win the Triple Crown or even to compete in all the Triple Crown races because horses only have so many good races in them. And the idea is to get them to peak on the first Saturday in May.
Exactly.
All right. Now, which race would you like to start off with today, John?
Whatever you want. We could do the Withers first since I don't have much to say on the race. And the reason being it's no one's fault. It's just the way it came up. This year's Withers, which will be run at Aqueduct, the 8th race, it's 1 1/8 on the main track. You have 9 horses entered. Only one of them has been the 1 1/8 distance so far. So there are question marks, and these are lightly raced horses. They have 1 and 2 starts, and some of them are trying distance for the first time. So generally speaking, it's really not a race that I would be concentrating on betting for myself, but I'll be glad to pass along anything that I think could be of some help.
All right. Well, fair enough. And this is, again, 10 points to the winner. And you also get points for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So, again, these are all Derby points. So these horses, this is a Kentucky Derby prep race, just like last week's Holy Bull, 1 1/8. And I tell you what, this is actually, it's interesting, and this is why this is good, because this is actually a race that I like better than the next race we're going to do. So that's good. But in this one, the 3, which is one of the favorites, and who do you think is going to go off as the heavy favorite? Do you think it will be Capo Cane?
I think it'll probably be the 5 because the 5 is trained by Chad Brown.
Yes.
The 3 is trained by Harold Weiner. Harold Weiner is not a household name.
That's true.
Chad Brown.
And Pletcher's got the 7 as well.
And Pletcher has a horse in the race as well.
Which is actually why I don't really like those 2 because I'm actually gonna take the 3. I like the fact the sheets are perfect. 22, 17, 13. So that's exactly what we're looking for. The rider in this race actually won last year's race with Max Player, who went on to compete in the Derby. But I'm also going to take. How do I not take the long shot in my exactas or trifectas? The 4, Mr. Dota, John, because Mr. Dota, we're going to take a line through that 35, which we talk about a lot. It's our first time saying that this year, but it's like in handicapping when you've got, this, Mark, when you have 6 football games, college football games, and there's a real clunker. you take the clunker out. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't affect the other 5 games that you're handicapping if it's an anomaly. And so that's what I think the 35 is. And if I do that, you go 27, 25, 22, 15, 13. This horse just keeps getting better. He's 1-for-1 in 2021, and he's 30-1.
Well, in horse racing, to be a successful handicapper, you have to have a short memory and you have to be willing to forgive and forget. And what I mean by that is when a horse throws in a clunker, it's like anyone else. It's like a pitcher that goes out and has a bad game. Guys go 0 for 4 all the time. It doesn't mean they're not good. They just didn't show up on that day. So in horse racing, you have to be the same way. The problem that I have with the horses we were talking about, the 4-horse, he's coming off of Lasix, so that's unusual. The 2-year-olds, which now turn 3, which most of these horses are, weren't allowed to run on Lasix. This horse, Mr. Doda, who are you talking about?
Mr. Doda.
Mr. Doda. He was able to run on Lasix in Pennsylvania. So now he's running here in New York. So he's got to come off of Lasix because it's a stake race. Same thing goes for the 2 Royal Number. I guess he's been running at Laurel, so he comes off of Lasix also. So those are 2 knocks.
By the way, do you have that in the sheets?
Yes, it'll tell you an N. A little N means no Lasix.
All right, a little N means no Lasix. I'm going to write.
Hey, John, speaking of which, at playbooksports.com, we have a feature on our site there called You Ask, We Answer. And I got a question this past week after having watched your show last week. They were really, really impressed. They wanted me to ask you, what does it mean with these horses that can no longer race on Lasix, that had been racing on Lasix? How does it affect them in major stakes races?
Well, the only thing I could tell you is that they're all coming off of Lasix. So it's kind of an even playing field. So it's not like one guy's coming off of Lasix and another one isn't. So the fact that they're all coming off of Lasix, you can't pay attention to it, honestly, in my opinion. I just think that, first of all, people use substitutes for Lasix. There are certain vitamins they use. Lasix prevents you from bleeding in a race. But it also, the reason that they made this rule is they're trying to clean the game up, and they think that if you don't use, that Lasix is masking other drugs which trainers may be giving horses. But I have a theory that if a guy wants to cheat, he's going to find a way to cheat anyway. I don't think it's the Lasix that prevents him, that gives him a license to cheat. So I don't pay that much attention to it. And after a while, you'll see that they all won't have Lasix for these big stake races, so it won't matter. You'll be able to see off the sheets if a horse reacts and doesn't run well off the Lasix. Well, that could be the reason. Not running on Lasix is only going to give you an excuse for a horse running in a bad race. I think it's a terrible rule because when horses bleed, it could result in a 6-month layoff. It's not a pretty sight when you see a horse come back with blood coming out of his nostrils or his mouth. It's not a good situation, and it harms the horse. They think it's going to help the horse in the long run. Well, maybe, but in the short term, it's not good, in my opinion.
So basically, then, all horses that are not racing on Lasix with other horses that are not are playing on a level field.
Exactly.
Right. No harm, no foul. Good.
All right, so there you go. And maybe one of these upcoming races will get an opportunity. If you've never had an opportunity to see the sheets before, we'll start giving you a good look at some snapshots at some of exactly the symbols we're talking about and what some of these.
As a matter of fact, Greg, in the Santa Anita race, you're going to see some horses that came off of Lasix in their last race for the first time. So get to those, I'll point them out.
All right.
Back to the Withers for a second. The 3-horse, the horse you were talking about, Harold Weiner. The problem I have with this horse is the 13 that he ran last time out, the big race. That race was run on a wet track. So did he run the 13 because it was a wet track, or did he run the 13 because he's improving? Okay. That's the $1 million question. So when you're dealing with a short-priced horse, which he's going to be, I would tend to want to play against a horse like that. Comes up sloppy tomorrow, which is a possibility. There is a chance of rain. So if the track is fast, I definitely wouldn't be playing that horse under any circumstances. If the track was wet, well, then I would consider playing him if you're playing the race.
Okay. So chance of rain, that will make it interesting. That might actually be a bonus if it does for Capo
Right.
Cane. The other
Now,
horse that I'm going to put into my exact is going to be the 9. I think there's good value on Eagle Orb. He broke his maiden on his first try. He's been very solid, consistently in the sheets over his career, including his best 2 sheet numbers, which have occurred his last 2 races at this track. And
yeah,
he's getting 10-1 is what I led off with.
everything you said was right. The only problem is it's a very difficult post to win from at Aqueduct, a mile and an eighth, breaking from an outside post. Outside posts are at a big disadvantage because you start off going right into the turn. So if you have speed, you're going to get hung out because horses inside of you are going to break.
Okay.
And if you have no speed, you're going to have to drop back to last and eventually circle the field. So breaking from outside posts around 2 turns is a disadvantage.
Okay.
But you're being rewarded. If you like a 10-1 shot, I would never talk you off him. Go right ahead. I mean, he's fine, that horse. If I had to pick a horse in the race, I probably would go to Donegal Bay. I just like his progressive, he's getting better with each start. It's Pletcher, but again, not a strong conviction. I think it's a very tough race. I think it's wide open. And, I could make a case for a lot of horses. There's just too many unknowns for me to really sink my teeth into this race. So.
Anything in this one, Mark, before we move on?
Well, the Donegal Bay comment that John made, I agree, looking at the PPs in the race, and also he's well-bred out of Uncle Mo. Todd Pletcher, and you're going to get Todd Pletcher with a well-bred horse who's not going to be going off as chalk. That's going to be interesting, at least a look for me, and I concur with what it is that John said about the horse.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that because right now he's the 3rd choice, but that could change. So very important to keep that in mind when we take a look at the odds before post time. All right, now let's move on to the race at Santa Anita. This is the Thunder Road Stakes race. It's a grade 3 race for 4-year-olds and up. It's a mile turf race, and there are 4 short price horses in this race: the 1, the 2, the 7, and the 8. And like I said, I prefer the 8 because I gave you a couple of longer shot horses that I liked. I don't like a lot of longer short horses in this race. I hope you do, John. So I'm just going to go and say, well, I'm going to take 2 of the 4 best, put it into an exacta, and hope I get a good pay. And that's going to be the 1 and the 7. So I'm going to go 1-7 exacta in this race. Who do you like, John, and why?
I thought you said the 8, but
No,
you
the
like
8th
the 7?
race. Yeah, 1 and 7 exacta. The other horses that were the short price horses were the 2 and the 8.
Okay, well, first of all, the 7 and the 8 both came off of Lasix in their last race.
Okay.
Now, the 10 horse who was running 8s last year, it was his first start back off of a layoff, so he ran a 10. A 10 isn't that far off from the 8. So I don't think the no Lasix affected him. And as for Bob and Jackie, the same thing goes. You could see he ran basically the same number, but I'm surprised that you didn't come up with the 3 horse in here.
Actually, no, wait. Here's my note. Wait, I got my note. I'm going to put my note on the screen. See, I've got a note here. See all this stuff here? Those are notes for the 3 horse. Very weird to try to get this. When you see the replay of this, you'll see how weird it is for me to show this on the screen. Anyway, here's my notes. Ask John to explain sheets with this horse due to the odds at 15-1 and his poor results. Because when you look at the sheets, you got 9, 6, 6, 8, 8. I got 6s and 6s from 2 years ago, but I got a horse that has only got 2 wins out of 11 at this distance, 4 wins out of 17 on turf, and he's 15-1.
Well, first of all, he was running in graded stake races. He still earned $625,000, so it's not like he's some slouch.
Yes, true.
I mean, if you're looking at sheets, you must play this.
Yeah, absolutely.
You gave me 4 horses, and
no, I'm just. That's why I put this note here because I wanted you to. I wanted you to verify and not say something like, "Well, you didn't see this, Greg," because you didn't see this. Yeah, this horse is no good. But no, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's what I was surprised.
I mean, this is a no-brainer. This is a no-brainer.
Okay.
I mean, listen, he's got 6s and 8s. As fast as the shorter priced horses in the race have run. Why would you not want to bet him? The race 2 starts back was on the dirt, some stake race in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They sent this horse to. Goes all over the world, this horse. And he runs at Golden Gate, at Santa Anita, at Zia Park, at Albuquerque, Santa Anita. He runs all over the place. And every time he runs well. He doesn't really run worse than the 8. You see, when you handicap a race, what I do is I'll look through the sheets and I'll come up with a number in my mind that I think is going to take to win the race. So for me, after doing that in this race, I figured if I can get a horse that can run an 8 or better, I have a winner. So it comes out where I have the 1 could run a 10 to a 9. I gave the 3 an 8 to a 6. I gave the 7 a 9 and an 8, and I gave the 8 an 8. Hembry. So now I go back and I look and I see, well, all these horses are all within a point or 2 of each other. Why the hell would I bet a short-priced horse? Why would I bet the 7 or the 8 before I bet the 3, who's 15 to 1? I wouldn't. Yeah. That's the right horse to bet here without a question.
Are the odds off then?
No, these odds are right, because if you look, he always goes off a price. First of all, he has low-profile connections. The trainer doesn't win all that much. He's not Bob Baffert or Peter Miller or Richard Baltas.
And the rider doesn't win a lot.
And the rider doesn't win all that often either. But I'm getting rewarded. I'm getting 20 to 1 on this horse. But I guarantee it'll be a lot shorter because I'll be giving them out on all 3 radio shows that I do tonight.
All right, sounds good.
Easy to remember, yes.
All right. I'll do 1, 3, and 7 then. What are you going to do, John?
I'm going to play the 3 in exactas with the 1, 7, and 8 first and second. And obviously, if the 3's anywhere over 10 to 1, I'll be betting him to 1.
So you said you're going to do the 3 with the 1, 7, and 8?
Yeah, first and second in exactas. There's plenty of room when you're betting 15 to 1 shots. I mean, the exacta will come back $8. If he wins, who knows what it'll come back. But you're going to get a nice exacta and you could earn.
All right, and then just quickly, because we didn't really go through the horses. So the 1, a win the last time out, ran an 11. This is a pretty decent horse, but nothing special. This is just 4 to 1. That's the problem.
He has the advantage of breaking from the inside, and he's speed. Okay. So the shortest way around is being inside. So that's what gives him, even though he's a point or 2 slower than the 7 and 8, but he makes up for it post position wise.
Now the 2 is 4 to 1. He won his last 2 races at this distance at Santa Anita, but I don't see anything special for 4 to 1.
He's got 1 race in 2 years. I don't like this horse. If he wins, I lose.
Okay.
I mean, at 4 to 1, he's not fast.
Yes.
So why am I?
The 4, I wanted to try to like the 4, but at 6 to 1, I really couldn't.
Yeah, the 4 was the last horse I threw out. I had him on the bubble. I had him and the 5 actually on the bubble, and I had to get rid of them.
Yeah, the 5 obviously doesn't have a lot of turf races under his belt. Only 1 actually in the last couple of years, but his sheet numbers are pretty strong.
Yeah, but
the rest of the horses.
He's 6 years old and he has 15 races. He doesn't run all that often. He obviously has physical problems. The trainer is fine. He knows how to win. But again, you can't use them all. Nope. That's why you have that win bet in case you blow the exact. At least you're going to collect the win bet.
And since you put the 7 and the 8 in the exactas, who do you like better? Who do you prefer, the 7 or the 8?
It's a toss-up. Probably the 8. Only because the 7 is speed and there's other speed in the race, so, he may get knocked out. And I don't like the rider on the 7, to be honest with you. But, that the 8 gets Rosario. That's why I went to the 8. But the 3 is the key. Win, lose, or draw.
All right. Before I go, a couple of things important to note. And we want to send everybody over to playbooksports.com. And why do we want to do that, Mark?
Well, I'm relaying a lot here on this show today to what John is saying and what you said, and talking about an anomaly of a horse. And, the first thought that came to my mind when John was talking about that was, in handicapping sports, much the same. You're never as good as you look in your best win, nor are you ever as bad as you look in your worst loss. That's drawing a line through those teams, or in this case, through those horses, which is nice to know when you're looking at the sheets. We talked about a long shot in the last race being just that. So another good handicapping lesson from John, aside from just going through the sheets themselves. That's what we do at Playbook Sports, handicapping sports. We're all into basketball right now with the Super Bowl being in the rear view mirror right now. So anything we're doing, check it out online, playbooksports.com. And when you're there, if you got a question you want to ask for John, click on the You Ask, We Answer, and I'll be sure to forward it on to John.
All right, and also anybody listening, the specials that we have for Playbook Sports and johnsheets.com, that is going to be now, normally, John, you have a $25 offer
For the full
card. So
if you order through Playbook, you'll get 2 cards. You can get 2 tracks. I do Santa Anita, Aqueduct, and Gulfstream every day. Those 3 tracks, and I'll add in a 4th track on occasion when I'll do Oak Lawn or depends where they're running. And you'll get 2 tracks for the price of 1.
I like that. A BOGO. A BOGO. We like that. Yes.
And that's only for the same day's races, correct?
Right. And it's only through Playbook.
And it's only for first-time clients, too. So.
No. I'll if they go through Playbook, I'll honor it.
All right. Sounds good. John's in a happy mood, even though did you have to shovel snow this week, John?
Yes, we did. But
I was
it's
getting your
all right.
emails in the last 24 hours. That's the first thing I was thinking about. I was like, I think John was shoveling a little bit too much snow this week.
A lot of aggravation. All right,
All right,
guys.
yes,
Stay safe.
excellent. Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like the show if you enjoyed our show. And that's very important for our traffic and so forth. John, I appreciate it. Mark, I appreciate it. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks, guys. Be
Great
well.
show as always, guys.